All right, all right, all right. I am back. Greetings and welcome once again. We're going to open up and get into this health conversation really quickly. I'm going to bring you up to speed and then we're going to get into this paperwork. All right, all right, all right. Welcome back once again. This is Amuna, and you don't know already. I pray everybody is doing well. You might be like, "What take Amuna, man?" Listen, something came across my desk in recent time, and someone that I know, that you see on social media. You understand? But you may note something mentally, and you don't really necessarily reach out and say, "Hey, what's going on? Everything good?" And as time progresses, because there's so much stuff on social media, there's so much information, there's so much influencers, especially in the health space, advising, making it a hype type of situation. Hold on one second. For people to change and adjust what they're doing, especially if they're sick. In the space of when you're sick, hold on one second. People may feel desperate or pressed when they're sick to make choices that they may not otherwise make. In addition to that, when someone is sick, the same thing that may be beneficial because you're well may not be beneficial because you are sick. And one of the issues that I have with social media gurus, thank you for joining us. I'm going to be Michelle. Welcome to the conversation. One of the issues that I have with social media gurus, and I've seen this for years, is that it's a kind of cult of personality, right? People vibe with the personality. They start spitting out all this information at lightning speed. And then the people are wowed with all of their oratorical skills. And the next thing you know, the conclusion, you may have memorized the anatomy book, right? But the next thing you know, the conclusion is wrong. The conclusion, like I showed all of the diet books, is skewed. The conclusion may not be applicable to your situation. And so what may be okay, or in some instances extreme, for a healthy individual who's just looking to cleanse, may be detrimental for the person who is already sick. So in this particular case, let me put it up on the screen again. And it's not me just ringing the alarm. It's something that I should have paid attention to and kind of shared in, just to have some type of alternative information into the chat that may not be readily available. It's not saying it's not there. It's just saying that in many times people don't take the time to go and look. What am I talking about today? The 40-day fruit fast at sugar and cancer. Okay, so if you look across the landscape of social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of these places, you're going to see not only the general public, but melanated people, Gen Z, all people who are trying to get into the health aspect of their life. You're going to see people join me, take the 40-day fruit fast, right? 30-day fruit fast. You're going to see, I really want to get into this 40-day fruit fast until my birthday. Again, some people may be getting into it because they want to lose some weight really quickly. Some people want to get into it because they feel sluggish and they want to detox. Some people want to get into it because they're sick. They may have cancer. They may have diabetes. They may have all of these things. Now, people, because you're getting into it for different reasons, that reason, your current state, like they say, before you start any routine, consult your doctor. That current state has to be considered before you get into this stuff. Share this video, please, because it can save someone's life. Seriously. Another one, I'm getting into this fruit fast, 40 days, nothing but grapes. And we're going to get into the paperwork that I'm going to share that you could go do your own research. YouTube videos, how to do a grape fast, the cure to everything. Okay. Another one, grape fast heals cancer. Listen to that quickly. Grape fast heals cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, fibromyalgia, with the herbs that this particular individual, all of these things, is said that the grape fast is going to do it. Another one, 21-day grape fast results. And this is not to comfort anybody. It's just to show the pervasiveness of the thought process across the landscape that if you tune in, 40-day grape fast, powerful detoxer. More, right, of the natural. Now, I am a person who's all into natural healing. Let's not mistake about it. But research so that you can understand what you're getting yourself into. Yes, there are people who are just doing grapes, sis. And not only that, beyond just doing grapes, it's pushing H3O and not H2O, H3O being the juice of the fruit. And we're going to talk about why for some that could be problematic. Now, Mona is not a doctor. Is Amuna studying health promotion and education advocacy? Absolutely. Am I a doctor? No. Am I a nutritionist? No. Am I a researcher? Yes. Okay. Have I advocated for my own self in medical spaces for the longest time? Absolutely. Right? So I'm going to share you with that perspective. So I just went over why this is on my radar. When something gets on my radar, okay? Y'all already know I go in, all right? So we see that the internet is lauding the grape fast as the cure-all to many things. Problems. Why is there a problem? First, let's start off by excessive sugar. We talked about this the other day. Insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, diabetes, and a whole host of other problems. Now, if you look up sugar and cancer on the internet, you're going to get varying thoughts. You're going to get back and forth. But I'm going to share you some things today. And I adjure you, I beseech you, do your own research. I'm going to share my screen because just like we break down family history, break down, what we're reading in Bob Marley and what we're reading in Rita Marley and what I'm reading in slavery and when we break this down, then we can pick sense from nonsense, as they say in the Caribbean. So the first question I would ask, if the only thing that I'm consuming is grapes for 40 days, what is the content of grapes? I'm not talking about all of the properties that are being lauded, because when you think about it, were grapes created to be consumed solely, this mono fast, solely for this extended period of time? You see the calorie content I put in, okay? I put in 1 cup of grapes. You will see the fat content, the carbohydrate content, which is strictly coming from sugars. This is what I'm going to be concentrating on because it's easy to look at the potassium, which is 456 milligrams. But when you look at the sugar content, it's 27.5 grams of sugar in 1 cup of grapes. Why is this important? The next thing you have to ask yourself is, what is the daily recommended amount of sugar? Not just sugar per day. The daily recommended amount of sugar is 23 grams of sugar. Stay with me here. When you turn the back of something and they say, what is the daily recommended amount? Hold on. So when you look at the daily recommended amount, they have here, hold on one second. The last time I looked it up, it was men should consume no more than 36, women no more than 25. This is what they're saying. Daily recommended amount of sugar. They have it at 6 teaspoons of sugar. If you turn the back of most of your things, the reason why the population is increasing is because they're way beyond the daily recommended amount of a lot of things. Okay. In this particular case, it is sugar. Now, how much is 23 grams of sugar? How much? All things that we can do is then 23 grams of sugar. In teaspoon, 23 grams of sugar is 5½ teaspoons, or 1/8 of a cup. Following? So far, with this grape intake of 1 cup of grapes, and you're not going to eat the 1 cup because this is the only thing you're eating for the day. At 27.5, this 1 cup of grapes takes you beyond your daily recommended amount of sugar. Remember, the name of this video is The Hidden Dangers of 40-Day Grape Fast and Cancer. So in 1 cup of sugar, you've exceeded your daily recommended amount of what you call it, of grapes. So let's say, for instance, that you are consuming 3 cups of grapes. So we take out our handy dandy calculator and we say, oh, are we consuming 3 cups of grapes, which is 27, and some grapes are sweeter than others. So in this case, it's recommended the darker grapes, which are the globe grapes. But for the sake of this, you're going to tweak it as you go on. All right. Somebody's going to be like, yo, you know what I mean? You should get on this grape diet because I'm telling you, weigh it in the balance. 27.5 grams of sugar for 1 cup. Let's say, because I'm seeing some really big bowls here. If I go back to the bowls, I'm seeing people eating copious amounts of grapes. Copious amounts of grapes. Copious amounts of grapes. I'm seeing people eating a lot of grapes. Why? Because the grapes are the only thing that you will be eating on this here fast. Copious amounts of grapes. So let's say, for instance, you are eating 27.5 for 1 cup. This is what the dietitian would do. They would go in, when they say macronutrients and micronutrients, they have to go in and look at all this stuff, right? Seems like a pain. But when you really do the math, you understand that something is off. So if you did 3 cups of grapes, that is 82.5 grams of sugar for the day. For the day. 82.5 grams of sugar. And remember, nothing else is going in your system. How much is 82.5 grams of sugar? Okay. And then I'm going to get to the article. 82 grams of sugar is 3/8 cup or 6½ tablespoons of sugar for the day. If you juiced the grape, which I see people also doing, and you drank 1 cup of grape juice, of fresh grape juice, just increase that, okay? 1 cup of grape juice, how much sugar? People will be like, but Mona, it's fructose. It's natural sugar. No worries. Stay tuned. 1 cup of fresh grape juice. It takes time to go through this. And that's why some people would rather just listen to everything someone else is saying, which is problematic, especially if you don't weigh your own situation. It is 36 grams. So if you're drinking the juice itself, you are upping it to 36 grams from 25 grams of sugar. So I go and write this down because we're going to make 2 running lists here. Why? Somebody I know is no longer with us. Okay. Because of some similar type of stuff like this. Did we take all things into consideration? Wish I'd made a paper there. So we're going to run on 2 lists now, right? We're going to run on 2 lists. We're going to run on, hold on 1 second, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for rocking with us. We're going to go through this information because it is important. It may save a life. Hold on there. All right. I'm all for self-education, but I'm also for understanding that there are parts that we don't understand. And it is dangerous when we go into certain places and present as though we understand the full and totality, and we don't. And we don't avail ourselves. So on one side, it is 27.5 for 1 cup of grapes. And on the other side, if you juiced it, say you fresh juiced your grapes, it is, I remember, the fiber that is no longer in the grapes that helps slow down the absorption of the sugar. It's a straight hit. It is a straight hit to the system. Okay, which part me put? Which part me put the 36. So it is almost, it's 9, it's 8.5 more grams of sugar in the juice if you juice it. Right? We're talking about cancer. So let's focus, because somebody will be like, this is no, I'm speaking about specifically something specifically. So okay, cool. Now say you ate or drank 3 cups for the day. I don't know how much they're drinking, but we're gonna say that's what you did. On one side, 27.5 grams of sugar times 3 cups for one day, that equals 82.5 grams. Remember, 25 grams is the recommended daily amount. What is the amount? You are how many times over the daily recommended amount of sugar? 3 times. Well, going towards 4. But let's continue. If you juiced it, it's 36 times 3. You're at 108. It's 4 times the amount of recommended daily sugar for the day. Remember, the people who are doing this, this is the only thing they're eating for the entire day. That would mean 82 times 40 days, it's 3,280 grams of sugar. If you ate 3 cups of grapes a day for 40 days, nothing else. I could be wrong. Y'all let me know if I'm wrong, or if my reasoning is wrong, or if my thesis statement is incorrect, right? I'm open to that. Let me know. 108, if you juiced it, if you drank 3 cups of juice a day for 40 days, it's 4,320 grams of sugar on this 30-day or 40-day fruit fast, which is grapes, which people are doing. If you just joined us and you say, Mona, why are you going hard? Ain't nobody doing this. I beg to differ. Let me go back over the pictures again. People are more than doing this. And you have gurus, teachers, leaders, and people who just have, I want to do a 44 days, grapes only, grape fast, how to do the grape fast to detox. More again, grape fast heals all of these things: cancer, diabetes, fibromyalgia. Okay, 3 weeks only, grapes. So when I say people are doing it, people are doing it. The thing is, like I said in the beginning, if you come into this conversation and you, the person, are sick, you might want to reconsider what you're doing, because what it may do for somebody who does not have your ailment, you may have a different outcome. Let's stay on track. So let's see how many cups of sugar you would have consumed in 40 days from eating only grapes. Okay. How much is 3,000, and this is the beauty of the internet, right? 3,280 grams of sugar in cups. Let me go to our little converter here. And then I'm going to show you how much it comes up to. So we have all of these very cool tools, yeah? But hold on, let me get one way and I have all of them add here. Here we go. All right, let me share my screen with you. And this is all stuff we can do because all of this stuff is here for us. Grams of sugar. So, and somebody would say, Amuna, it's not what you call it, sugar. So hold on. How much is sugar grams of fructose? Calculate your fructose intake. Hold on. They have, I'm trying to get the calculation here. Hold on one second. I'm going to have to do that calculation and come back to you guys. Hold on, because that particular calculation is the amount of fructose in, I wanted to calculate the amount of fructose in that specific grape. So we know at this point that the grapes, because I don't want to give anybody any misinformation, that the grapes are high in fructose, right? And I'm gonna come back with that, even if I have to come back, and you already know I'm gonna put it in the comment section so that I can make sure I give you the right amount of fructose based on the measurement, the conversion measurement. So right now it is just this number, 4,320 grams. It is what is in the fructose. So to convert that into what it would look like in sugar in the system, that's what I'm gonna come back to you on. But for the sake of time, let's move forward, right? So you're eating copious amounts of sugar. Let's go forward now. I'm going to share an article. This article is simple sugar intake. Simple sugar, which is fructose, not complex, not processed. Simple sugar intake and cancer incidence, cancer mortality, and all-cause mortality. A cohort study from Med trial. So these are trials. When they come out and do the flash statistics, you got to go and look at, if you're interested, the trials and the reports that came out of the trials and who ran the trials, and if anybody is subject to anybody else with the trial, and if the trial was objective, right? So we see all of the people who are on this report here, and you can check it out. Then you go down here, and the objective was to examine. This is what we need to do. Somebody's telling you, hey, go eat all of this, go do all of this, examine association between what? Intake of simple sugars and cancer incidence. That means there are studies on this. So the people on the internet, I did this, it worked for me. Did you have cancer? Were you diagnosed? Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, right? What type of cancer? All of this is important because you can be giving advice general to somebody. They run off and take it, and they run off and hurt themselves. Cancer incidence, cancer mortality, and total mortality in a prospective cohort study based on Med trial conducted 2003 to 2010. And then they're going to tell you who participated. Participants were older individuals at high cardiovascular risk. Exposures were total sugar, glucose, and fructose, which is what we're talking about with the 40-day what? Grape fast. Somebody will be like, Amuna, it's added sugars. No. This study was for also fructose. Solid or liquid sources and fructose from fruit and 100% fruit juice. What are we hearing about? H3O, 100% fruit juice, which concentrates the sugars because the fibers are taken out. Let's continue. It says here, I know this is not as juicy as, breaking down history and other people's experiences, and which I love to do as well. But this can save our own lives and the lives of our own family and friends and people we know. And therefore, it is important because you may not have heard of it and maybe think like, wow, this is wild. Who would want to do that? People who think it's a good idea. It says here, participants, oh, I already said that. It says cancer incidence was the primary outcome. Cancer mortality and all-cause mortality were secondary outcomes. Multivariable adjusted time dependent Cox proportional hazard modes were used. And they get into study talk and all this stuff. They give you the results. We're going to look at the conclusion. I'm going to put the study in the box. You can look at it for yourself. Right? So they go into telling us how many people were in the study: 7,447 enrolled, 7,056, 94.7% were included. It gives you 57.6 were women, age 67, plus or minus 6.2 years, right? So it's this range the range is 67 plus or minus. So the median is 67. It could be less than 67 by 6 years. So basically 61 all the way up to 70. That's the plus or minus. 534 incident cancers with 152 cancer deaths. 409 all-cause deaths were recorded after a median followed up of 6 years. It goes on to say the intake of simple sugars in solid form was unrelated to outcomes. Higher cancer incidence was found per 5 grams a day increase. So they're saying, remember we just saw how much of an increase of cancers if you went on this fruit fast and you were already predisposed to having cancer or diagnosed with cancer. And according to this particular study, an increase of 5 grams a day in liquid sugars, like fructose, like fruit juice. Although in natural states, fruit juice is not supposed to be meant to drink apart from the fruit, because the fruit has other things and components that allows the fruit juice to do what it does. But when you separate the two, you concentrate it, thereby making it more potent. It says, with multivariable adjusted HR of 1.08, and it goes into this, and it goes into the liquid sugars, the glucose, and liquid fructose. And the fructose, they're telling you it's specifically from fruit juice. Cancer and all-cause mortality increased to a similar extent with intake of all sugars in liquid form. What did that thing just say? Is Amuna bugging? Just ridiculously ringing out. It said cancer and all-cause mortality increased to a similar extent with intake of all sugars in liquid forms. We are looking at a fast that's being suggested to help with cancer, but it's doing something that is feeding the cancer. In categorical models, cancer risks were dose related for all liquid sugars. And then it gives you the conclusion, and then you can look at it for yourself because you can download the PDF. So let me go ahead and show you this. Please pass it along. Please, 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 please pass it along. Okay? Because when people get desperate, I understand homeopathic remedies. I absolutely do. But you got to know what you're doing, because some things can actually hurt you, even though they're natural. Simple sugar intake in drinks and fruit juice was associated with increased risk of overall cancer incidence and mortality and all-cause mortality. This suggests that sugary beverages are a modified risk factor for cancer and all mortality. And then you can go into reading it, because that was just the overview. You have the introduction. It gives you all the information. You have the study. You have the measurements, right? You have the outcomes. You have the statistical analysis, right? If you want to get in there, N is the number of participants. It means the sample participants of the people. I freshly just took a statistics class, so it's kind of in my mind right now. Okay. You have the flow chart, and you have how they did the study. And they just increased 1 teaspoon. You see it right here, right here, right here, right here. You definitely read it. Sugar intakes were modeled as continuous variables and hazard ratios, and their 95 cents confidence intervals for what confidence interval is how much within the range it has to fall for them to approve their hypothesis. And if it falls outside of the range, then they have to reject the null, which is rejecting the hypothesis, right? So this is them doing their test, their study, and they're hypothesizing, which you would have to go in the study and see what is the hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. And so whatever they set it at, they're looking at the increase of just simply 5 grams a day, right? To see whether or not this had an effect on the cancer. 1 teaspoon is 5 grams of sugar. So even if you're drinking your tea, your coffee, or whatever you're drinking, and you're putting 2, 3, 4, 5 teaspoons in there, you're way past your allotted amount for the day. For the day. Okay? This is why diabetes is prevalent. Insulin resistance is prevalent, because we're not realizing we're way above the amount of sugar that we're even supposed to be consuming between your soda, your fruit juice, between the fruits that whatever you're eating. Be careful. All right. Anywho, so yes, so they go in and take other things into consideration on this particular study, and then they go into the results as we read up at the top. Okay, even if it's minute, what for me it shows you is that there is a connection and there is a link, and it also goes into what type of diet they were on, this, that, and the third. There's a connection and a link, and you can definitely look up that connection and link in your own time between cancer and sugar. If you look generally on the internet, they're like, no, there's no connection. But if you start going into these studies, let's go to one more article, because I'm not going to stay that long on this. I kind of just wanted to come on because the more I look at it, is the more agitated I become in my spirit, because people are really getting hurt. And what we don't know can hurt us. Now, we can't save anybody, but we can educate ourselves to the degree where we can give somebody some information that they can make an informed decision, right? So that they can make an informed decision. So let me share the screen one more time and get another study. Again, I'm sharing all these studies. You ain't got to listen to me. Like reading Rainbow, like LeVar Burton used to say, you ain't got to take my word for it. Reading Rainbow used to be one of my favorite. Here we go. Here's another one. Used to be one of my favorite shows on PBS back in the day. Reading Rainbow. Okay. So here's another article. Let me drop the link in the box. All of this is readily available. I know looking into and reading about history is fun and exciting. But if we are not in good health, if we go into our old age, getting and taking wrong decisions because we're afraid or misinformed, or somebody, whatever they did to convince us, right? We have to live with that for the rest of our lives. And my grandmother often said, when she first came to America, they misdiagnosed her with diabetes. And they started her on insulin, which made her now dependent on insulin. And from that misdiagnosis to this very day, and she's 96 years old, she still has to be dependent on the insulin, because you solely took this authority's word for it. And now you have to live the entirety of your life with this, when in actuality, it may have not been that. So get your second opinion, do your research, make sure that the choice that you're making for you, or the choice that you're making for your loved one, is something that you can live with. Because this type of stuff is what also compromises the person's health and the quality of life that they could have lived or would have lived, because someone misdiagnosed, someone gave you bad information, someone they just were trying to sell whatever they were trying to sell. I don't know. But as you can see, I'm really passionate. Yes, I'm very passionate about this. I'm passionate about history, but I'm very passionate about this because I learned along the way that people oftentimes have their own slant, their own ideology, their own construct, be it whatever it is, naturopath, but you're leaning this way, allopathic, but you're leaning that way. All this, the suggestion is surgery, all the suggestion is removal, all the suggestion is whatever it is that you're inclined towards. And even though you claim it's holistic, it's not, because you already have a bias, you already have a slant, right? So when you have certain things like candida overgrowth, diabetes, cancer, you have to be mindful of the sugar intake, even if it comes from a natural source. So we're going to read this article now. Let me read this article now. This article says what? Simple sugar intake. Remember, both the articles I read, because somebody's going to be like, Amuna, we're not talking about, no, simple sugar. Intake. And hepatocellular carcinoma. What carcinoma? What's that? Cancer. Epidemiological and mechanistic insight, right? This is coming out of, because you want to know where it's coming out of. Who's saying this? What you also have to understand is that certain papers and studies coming out of certain places, yeah, it's important to know where the studies is coming out of. Let me give y'all a real quick story, and then I'm going to read this. When my children were small, I have twins, right? And twins and preemies are two outliers that you need to consider when you go in and you have people assessing you by their growth chart. So when you go to the when you go to get the checkup, go to pediatrics, they pull out this growth chart and they say, your child is 6 months. And according to our growth chart, your child is over, under, or in the median. Okay? And they're not taking in all of these outliers. But this is why you have to be an advocate. You got to be mindful. You got to be aware. You got to be on your square. Okay, fine, no problem. So you say, what are you using to judge this by? Well, ma'am, see here, going to our growth chart. And this seems like it's off topic, but it's on, because it's all about being educated. According to our growth chart here, your child is underweight. And you say, okay, according to these other variables, is that included into the growth chart? Breastfed, preemie, and twins. She says, no. I said, that's curious. That's also interesting, because preemies are known to be underweight until they catch up, as well as, depending on how preemie they are. Secondly, twins also have this variable that you have to consider. I said, is it okay if I see your growth chart? Oh, no problem, miss. Here's the growth chart. Miss takes a look at the growth chart. Look all the way down to the bottom. This is where I'm talking about. It's important to know who did the study or who has this paperwork. And you look all the way down to the bottom of the growth chart. And you see in very tiny font. I'm a graphic designer. I know when somebody don't want you to see what, and maybe 6-point or 8-point font all the way at the bottom. And you see, produced by Gerber. So you look at it and you look at the authority in the room and you say, this is a growth chart produced by a formula company. Is it fair to say, and this is a real conversation, this really happened. Is it fair to say that this growth chart is based on formula-fed babies? Yes. Oh, okay. Do you happen to have a growth chart that follows the natural course of growth for breastfed babies? No. Oh, so is it possible that you're advising people and scaring new mothers into believing that they're not feeding their child enough, or the child is not getting enough nutrients, when all the while the measure by which you are measuring the child is skewed? The assumption is that the thing by which you're using to measure me is correct, but in reality, it's not. I say all that to say, when we're looking at these studies, it's important to know who did the study and whether or not the person who did the study is compromised. A lot of times they'll tell you, did the person get money? Is this a paid study? Are you burying certain information that you don't want to come to the public? All of that's very important when talking about statistics. One of the things the community many like to do is give these wild, crazy statistics class. But when I took statistics, as you know, all who have taken statistics, it's not as easy as saying 99%. 99%, you have a 99% confidence interval level? Okay, let's continue. So anyway, we look at who did the study. And it's saying that we have the names, and then we have the references of where these people are from. Unit of Pharmacology, out of Barcelona, Spain, Department of Pharmacology and Therapeutic Chemistry, School of Pharmacy. So it's a school from the University of Barcelona. So this is a collegiate study. Institute of Biomedicine, out of Barcelona, Spain. So we know that this study is not based where? Is not based where? In the US. In the US. When you see some of this stuff coming up, even the standard of what can go into the collective community pool of what is acceptable in the food in Europe, it is different from in America. Okay, so it's interesting to note that this study is coming out of where? Spain. And what's the study? Simple sugar intake and hepatocellular carcinoma. Again, this article came out of Nutrition and Liver Disease. It was submitted October 21st, 2014, revised 28th of November, accepted 1st of December, published 22nd of December, 2014. So this article is now 10 years old. It's also important to note how old the article is. This article is now 10 years. It's going to be 10 years old in the end of this year. I'm just going to read the abstract because I already sent the link in the box. And this is just, please, do your research. Do your research. Sugar intake has drastically increased during the past few decades. And I have my own historical thoughts on sugar, because remember, sugar built the Caribbean. Sugar built Jamaican economy. When sugar hit, it was like that weight. It was like the original snow. Sugar hit, and this sugar is building economies between sugar production, rum, exports. Sugar is building the thing. Okay, so the fact that now it is coming and also claiming lives is not lost on me. But let's continue. Sugar intake has drastically increased during the last few decades. Specifically, there has been a clear trend towards higher consumption of fructose and high fructose corn syrup. That high fructose corn syrup, any way you see it, put it on. Any way you see it, put it on. It's in the most of your sugary drinks, your sodas, all of these come, put it on. Not a good fit. Anywho, which are the most common added sugars in processed food, soft drinks, and other sweetened beverages? When you look at bread, it's in the bread, it's in the juice, it's in the soda, it's in the foods that you wouldn't even think it's in. Like, why is it in there? It's in there, okay? Because the people are addicted to that sweet taste. Although still controversial, this rising trend in simple sugar consumption has been positively associated with weight gain, obesity, insulin resistance, which, by the way, this is a chain reaction. Weight gain, obesity, insulin resistance, and type 2 diabetes is all the chain reaction. They like one leads to the other leads to the other, and that's how you get to type 2. It's like you're stepping down the yellow brick road. Weight gain, obesity, insulin resistance, and type 2 diabetes mellitus, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So you can get fatty liver disease, but it's not from alcohol. Interestingly, all of these metabolic alterations have also been related to the development of hepatocellular carcinoma. So we'd be like, what is that? Let's just look really quickly, and then I'm gonna wind up. The purpose of this review is to discuss the evidence When people are just coming and like, yeah, I know it all, and this, that, and the third, there's not really discussion. It's either like take it or you're on your own. You understand? And people feel like there's no room to really discuss these other findings because the person is the guru. So why are you questioning the guru? The purpose of this review is to discuss the evidence coming from epidemiological studies and data from animal models relating the consumption of simple sugars, and specifically fructose, with an increased risk of hepatocellular carcinoma, and to gain insight in the putative molecular, hope I said that right, because these health words be like, mechanisms involved. So this is the overview. That's the abstract. Okay? 1 second. So again, we're seeing a link. We're seeing a link between sugar and cancer. And this particular hepatocellular is the most common form of liver cancer, often seen in people with chronic liver disease. So hepatocellular carcinoma is basically liver cancer. Okay, good. Yeah, it's a relay race. For one love, exactly. It's a relay. So if you start seeing the widening of the center, the stomach region, that is the body building this fat layer in the center. Then you start seeing your inability or difficulty with, and we'll come back and talk about the signs of insulin resistance, and it starts to build up in the body. Then you get pre-diabetic, and a lot of people don't realize it until they get diagnosed as pre-diabetic or even worse, diabetic. And at which point you behind the 8 ball. And definitely this sugar that people are advising, for those who have just joined us, and telling people, yes, grapes are good, but not for somebody who has these issues. Why? Because of the sugar content. So we're going into the paperwork. You're welcome, Stevens. You're welcome. You're welcome. I just found out something that hurt me to my core because I know this person in real life, right? And then, somebody seemingly is giving good advice. I remember when I used to sell at the farmer's market, and someone came up to me and was like, oh, what's in there? I said, spinach. The person said, I can't eat spinach. Now, imagine I'm like, spinach is good for you. What you mean you can't eat spinach? Whatever situation she had going on, she could not. There's certain nuances, there's certain diseases, there's certain ailments that people can't break down certain things. And just because spinach is good for you doesn't mean that I'm now going to force it on you because you already understand you can't, for whatever reason, digest it. Anyway, let's read this real quick. I'm gonna jump down. You could look at the introduction so that you can see what it's talking about. I'm gonna jump down. It goes into insulin resistance, okay, and hyperinsulinemia, hyperinsulinemia. Okay, you got to slow down on them words. They be tripping you up. Hyperinsulinemia, okay. And I put the link in the box. It goes on to obesity. Like I said, like it's like relay tag, you're it, unless it's type 1 diabetes, but this is talking about type 2, right? And then it jumps down and continues to talk about the hepatic manifestation of obesity and metabolic syndrome. All right. And it continues to go on. Please, I adjure you. I wanted to come down here, sugar intake and cancer incidence, because that's what this conversation is about. James Sasha, you have a friend like that. Yeah, it becomes problematic. And especially in the culture. I mean, shout out to Dr. Savies, may he rest. And, Dr. Lila Africa, you had D Herbs when, back in the day, and now you have many people that come behind them. And even in the melanated community, right, that pick up the mantle, so to say. But one of the things, and it's not just them, it's also in the traditional community, you have Dr. Oz, you have all of these different people, and then they have a slant. They're more inclined towards alkaline, or they're more inclined towards this, or they're more inclined towards that. And so the people who follow is like heavy leaning. And the problem is too much of anything, not good for nothing. Like I was talking to a friend the other day. Even though it is good, It doesn't mean it's good in the amount that you are. Salt is needed, right? Salt is necessary for the body, for mechanisms within the body to operate. But too much salt, you got hypertension. Healthy fats are needed. Too much fat, you got a problem. You got cardiovascular issues. Sugar is the body's preferred fuel source. Too much sugar, and you hear what we talking about. Sugar intake, what time I'm on? 50. All right. Sugar intake and cancer incidence. To date, only 2 reviews have examined, listen to this, when something is economically expedient, that means it behooves the people not to do the research because it is going to compromise the bottom dollar. Guess what? Them say, nobody look over there. So don't go over there and look because me no want to know. You know, if you ever told somebody something good, and what do? They turn their head and say, I don't want to know. Don't tell me. I don't want to be responsible for hearing. So it says, to date, which was 2014, only 2 reviews have examined the epidemiological and experimental data supporting a relationship between increased dietary fructose and cancer risk. Why? And epidemiology is what? The study of what? Disease. I would go into this, but all the math for me, I'd be like, bro, just put me on the research team. Because all this math is statistics. I'm like, nah, it's too many formulas, bro. It's too many formulas. But the research, I'm on it. So epidemiology is the branch of medicine which deals with the incidence, distribution, and possible control of disease and other factors related to health. So this you have to know the nature of the illness too much salt gives you itchy feet because it's retaining water when you have too much salt. What was I going to say? The epidemiologist, according to this report in 2014, is saying only 2 reviews, because when they do these reviews, it has to be peer reviewed. You can't just, I'm going to make a blog post and I am going to not be tested and rigorously examined. And no, when we're submitting certain things, we have to submit peer-reviewed articles as our references, as we know. It can't just be a random blog post. healthyme.com. It has to be peer reviewed. So this is saying only 2 reviews have examined the epidemiological and experimental data supporting a relationship between increased dietary fructose and cancer risk. Increased dietary fructose will be this 40-day fruit fast. Let's look at it again. Because 1 minute, maybe you're not eating this sugar, so much sugar. And the next minute, you're following a YouTuber and you're eating copious amounts of sugar in 1 day, in 1 month. So this particular article is looking at what the increase in sugar and its relationship to cancer. Hold on 1 second. Why? It goes on to say, epidemiological evidence linking dietary sugar and specifically fructose consumption, not sucrose, not any other, fructose consumption and cancer is presented in table 1. And definitely you click on this, it's a hyperlink, it's going to jump you down to table 1. Let me see. Boom. See? We're there on table 1. Okay? Pancreatic, cancer, prostate, liver, pancreatic. It's showing you, it's giving you the information. It's showing you how much sugar, main results. Table 1. See table 1 there. All right? And the key is at the bottom. Good. It says here, 2 case control studies with retrospective evaluation of diet concluded that a high dietary glycemic load is associated with an increased risk for HCC. especially in patients with chronic viral hepatitis. So this is talking about liver cancer, people. And that a reduction of glycemic load in those patients could reduce the risk of delay the development of HCC. So in the case of the person with cancer, they're not supposed to increase the sugar intake from fructose. They're supposed to decrease it. Not according to me, according to the results. And I know there's some jokes on social media. You don't know what to do because some person said this is good, some person said this is bad, and it's nothing but confusion. But again, like I said, you got to do the research for yourself. You got to do the research for yourself. It goes on to say more significant are the result arising from large prospective studies, such as those based on the NIH AARP Diet and Health Study Cohort, among them Geo et al. 2009. Another reference says, observe that free fructose consumption. This is what the 30, 40-day, 30-day, 21-day grape juice, nothing but watermelon, nothing else, fiber diets is free fructose consumption significantly increased the risk of pancreatic cancer, an observation that was confirmed later by a recent meta-analysis. It goes on to say, in the same NIH AARP cohort, Tasivka et al. Concluded that added fructose in the diet was associated with increased risk of small intestine cancer. And this is where people cherry pick. And because I ain't here to cherry pick, I'm going to read 40. Surprisingly, results from this study suggested, so then you would have to look at the study, that high added fructose intake in women associated with a decrease in the risk of liver cancer, an effect that was attributed to an unidentified confounder. So what is this outlier? What is this outlier that allows you to look at what it suggested? You would have to go look at the study to see how did they get to that conclusion, because the person who's interpreting the study, that's why they put it there, and they put surprisingly, because how did you get there? But they told you that there was something unidentified. So you would have to look at it. Let's continue. The most recent and compelling evidence related sugar consumption to cancer has come from the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition, which included more than, remember the last study that we saw only had, 7,000 something people? This European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition included 477,000, almost 500,000 people. That's a large sample size. That is an extremely large sample size. It says in this study, a positive association was found between increased total cancer intake and risk of HCC. Hazard ratio adjusted for multiple variables 1.5 per 50 grams a day. And we know that 50 grams a day exceeds the amount of the so-called daily recommended amount. It says, however, in a recently published study based on NIH AARP cohort, although fructose consumption was associated with increase in all-cause mortality and cardiovascular disease mortality, the intake of individual sugars or added sugars was not associated with cancer mortality. So you know what you would look? Who is NIH? Remember, this study is coming out of what? Spain, Europe. They have a different standard. Who is NIH? NIH is who? NIH, if I'm not mistaken, is coming out of America. National Institute of Health. So you have variant studies. One that's coming out of Europe is saying, nah, something is off. And the one that's coming out of America is saying, no, I don't think I see anything specifically. So let me show you the NIH. Let me, Because when you see something that's varying, you'll be like, yo, wait up, hold up, hold up, hold up. Why is with this coming out of here who has a different standard saying something very different? So you just click over really quickly and you see, boom, National Institute of Health, right? So when you see NIH, AARP, you know where it's coming from. It's coming from, well, let me go back. This is America's study. Okay? So what they're saying in Spain and in Europe and their study is saying something very different. But when you look at the dietary system, when you look at the health, you have to say, okay, you have to take that and weigh that into consideration, is all I'm saying. All right. It goes on to talk about simple sugars. Let me give you back the screen. And then I'll open the mic if you have anything to share. And then I'm going to boogie. As always, I want to thank you for your time. Again, I pray that you share this for someone who it may be of use to. So again, this is why you may see things that say, no, there's no connection. But clearly there's something going on. Obesity is increasing. Diabetes is increasing. Insulin resistance is increasing. BMI is off the chart. Cancer is off the chart. What is the connection? So you can continue to look here. They go into fructose. They go into, and I'm not going to go into all of it now, but they go into why and how it affects the body in its different forms. They go into the study and they go into fructose and insulin resistance. And I knew this years ago, and I used to share it with people years ago. They go into fructose and obesity. Okay. So I'm going to put this there for you. Years ago. No, let me just read in summary. Metabolic disorder caused by excessive simple sugar, and specifically fructose consumption, insulin resistance, obesity, NAFLD may lead to the development of HCC. It is thus logical to propose that a diet containing listen. It is thus logical to propose that a diet containing an excessive amount of fructose is one of the environmental risk factors of HCC, which is liver cancer. However, the epidemiological evidence confirming this link is still scarce because probably don't nobody want to research it. So more studies are warranted to confirm this hypothesis. In addition, studies in animal models chronically supplemented with fructose or with sucrose or high fructose corn syrup are needed to firmly establish the role of these dietary components in HCC development and to clearly unravel the molecular mechanisms involved. You can read it at your own discretion. And then they give you all of the references for this particular article. Look at the reference section, 218. And what I usually do if I'm doing a paper, I go into the reference section and then I begin to avail myself of all of this information because that's what it's there for. Okay. So I want to thank you for tuning in and allowing me to share that because, again, like I said, it's important and it's another piece of the puzzle when deciding for yourself, your family, what you're going to do with your health and what your life. So if someone is sick, this is specifically if someone is sick or they may be predisposed to something, you have to take that ailment into consideration when you're adopting something this extreme. Because usually when people say, I healed this one and I healed that one, oftentimes they're not telling you about the people they lost. They're not telling you about the people that died. They're not telling you the people that lost their lives, right? And I will come back and see how much fructose that is and leave it in the comment section below. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And I don't see anybody coming to the mic, so I'm going to go ahead and wind that at this time. If this has been helpful, tell a friend to tell a friend to do your research. Please. Everybody have a blessed day.